What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Simple Man's Guide to the Good Life. Today's episode is going to be on outside noise, outside static. Yesterday, Thursday, I was in the sauna. I like to spend Thursdays as like a self-care day, usually either sauna or get a massage, cold plunge and sauna, something along those lines, right? Like Thursday is a day that I try to parse out some time. I try to cut out a portion of time in the middle of the day to just do something for my mind, my body. And it fits well too as like a recovery thing for me. So yesterday it was just sauna. I go to a sauna place that I enjoy. And I was sitting there, and in my sauna place that I go to, they have TVs in all the sauna rooms, and I like to sit in silence. But on the TV screen, right, like the Netflix like scrolling screen was going that just shows all of the different titles that are on Netflix. And that was going. And then my phone started to vibrate. I didn't put it on do not disturb. It was outside, right? But you could hear it vibrating. And it just made me think, even in this moment where I've decided to sit in silence, I'm still getting a lot of outside static and noise. So take, for example, just the titles on the Netflix screen. Nothing's playing, but nonetheless, the titles scrolling, I'm looking at it, and my thoughts are immediately to this actor, the color of this story, like where it's set and placed. And then that causes me to think about the history of Rome and causing me to like go on a track of thinking that I otherwise would not have, like from an outside stimulus standpoint, right? I start thinking about this actor and their relationship with whatever and other movies I've seen them in, right? Again, not in control of my thoughts at all. Not that we ever really are, but sitting there still being stimulated, even though I'm sitting in silence. There's outside noise, outside static, right? I'm using noise as not just auditory things. And then, of course, the phone vibrating, right? It's not even in the room. I'm not even looking at the text messages. It's just vibrating. What does my brain immediately do? Is this something with my business? Did somebody get hurt? Right? That's the way my brain works, at least, like slight anxiety tinging things. And again, now my brain starts to wonder. So even though I've taken this moment to sit in silence, auditory silence, I'm still getting a lot of outside static. And I stopped and I paused for a minute and I go, this is crazy. Like there is so much going on in my brain right now, purely because of just photos on a screen rolling across and the sound of a vibrating phone. Like, and I am just in my head, even though I'm in silence. And it made me think, even in that small of a sample, right? And like for the most part, people be like, that still is like a very peaceful thing. You're not getting other people talking to you. You're not, you're not on social media, da, 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 da. It made me think though, if I think this is a lot of stimulus, think about our daily lives and how much outside static and outside noise we are constantly getting bombarded with. It is nonstop. Take stock of your day up until the point you're watching or listening to this podcast. Think about how much time you've had today so far to be in as much silence as you can be in. I mean, we have, depending on where you're living, you have roommates, you have neighbors, etc. But not stimulated by your phone, not stimulated by a podcast, not stimulated by the TV, not stimulated by music, just pure you and your thoughts. Have you had any today? I haven't had any today. I've yet to have it today, right? The most I've had is today I went for a 30-minute ruck hike with my dog, and that was great. It was great. But guess what? I was listening to a podcast. I didn't even do it without that. I was being stimulated. I've done it without, and it is far more calming. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about. But what I find is most people, and me included, right? We spend most of our days getting external inputs, external, all day long. Other people, social media, radio, podcasts, TV. We don't often have much time to just sit with ourselves. Even when we're meditating these days, it's guided meditation and we're having input from a 10-minute app, right? It's how I meditate. It made me think like, gosh, I don't even rely on myself to just be quiet with my own thoughts for 10 minutes. I have to have a meditation app. The one time that this does happen is I like to do drive in silence. But I mean, even there, right, I'm still getting the outside stimulus of having to drive. It's still pretty good though. And I'm not saying this because there should be this expectation that we have these days or we're just trying to seek like absolutely no inputs. No, of course not. We don't live in a world where that's possible. But I do think there is a value in trying to bring those inputs down as much as possible, or finding pockets in your day to bring those inputs down to as small as you can with the life you live. Especially because I think when I talk to people about this, if you think about, you go a whole day, how much time have you had like with your thoughts by yourself with as little stimulus as possible? Most people, it's not until when they put their head on the pillow. Odin in the back sniffing around. I think he's hungry. He's a lot of input for me. Odin. Hi, buddy. But this talking about, when we put our head down on the pillow, right? This can cause us to have a really hard time falling asleep, because if the only time throughout our whole day we have finally found some peace and quiet, some time for ourselves, some no input, is when we put our head down on the pillow, that's when our brain's going to go, hey, remember me? Well, now that you're not thinking about all these things that other people are telling you to think about, let's think about things we want to think about. And now we have a hard time falling asleep, right? And that's impacting us. And we just don't have a lot of time to actually ask ourselves, like, what am I thinking of? What is important to me? What values do I hold? It's always, this person thinks this person thinks this, social media is telling me this is da 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 da. And at some point, it's like, are you even living your own life? Or are you just regurgitating the opinions and the ideas of all the input you're getting from the news channel you listen to, from the politician you like, from the artist you like? How often do you sit with your own thoughts and parse through like, I don't actually agree with that. I do with this, da, 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 da. Truly ask yourself that. Do you ever actually sit down, journal your thoughts, and go, what do I actually think? What do I believe in? Or do you just regurgitate half-formed opinions from all the external inputs you're getting? I know I do that, right? And this is something that I am going to really work hard to continue to work on. It's something I do work on, but I know I do that. I go, I'll say, somebody will ask me my opinion on something and I'll say something. I go, and then after I'll say that, I go, do I actually believe that? Or was that just something somebody else said who maybe I respect, but I haven't actually worked through if I believe that. That was just an external stimulus. It was external noise, static in my brain, and regurgitated back out. It's something to think about, right? I think it's important for us to have moments in our day where we cut down the external noise as much as possible. And I'm not talking necessarily meditation. I'm just talking about trying to take as many inputs down as you can, right? And if you have kids, like, there's always going to be inputs, but try to minimize them as much as possible so you can be with yourself, right? I'm going to try to do, I've done this once before. I've talked about this on another podcast, like a reset day, where I had a Sunday where I took down my external stimulus pretty much to just the natural outside world. I did my morning work and I got that done. And then the rest of the day, I wasn't on screens. I didn't listen to anything. I didn't watch anything. I walked, I meditated, I did read, right? So that was, again, somebody here can nitpick that and go, well, that's external stimulus. It is, totally is. It's something I chose. And I did that for a majority of the day. And here's what I found. And I talked about this in that podcast, but I'm bringing this back up. The amount of calmness that started to overcome my body was something like that. I've talked about this. The feeling you have when you're like on your 5th day of a vacation. You finally settled in. You're not thinking about work, not thinking about anything other than just I'm in paradise or wherever you're at. I had that by the end of the day. And the only thing I can really attribute that to is my nervous system really was able to calm down because I was not getting continual inputs. When we are getting continual inputs all day long, and most of those inputs are like small levels of stress, you're watching the shitty news that is talking about shootings and political upheaval, and this person did this to the election, and da 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 da. Little tinges of like fight or flight, little tinges of adrenaline, right? Social media, podcasts, right? Even if it's not necessarily things that we would deem like a worthy of a fight or flight response, our brain is still taking in stimulus. And we got to do something with that stimulus. A lot of times, what we do is we produce hormones, right? And these devices, right, are so good at making our brain believe that it's like really happening. And so you get all this stimulus throughout the day. Nothing big enough to make you have like a panic attack or feel like you're actually like in a fight or flight state, but the small little levels of it, small little levels is causing some strain on your nervous system. And what I found was when I had that reset day and I took as much stimulus down as I could actually like tangibly feel myself going into a true like rest, digest stage. It was a feeling of true calmness and true kind of bliss by the end of the day. And it was immaculate. And again, I'm not saying we need to do that every single day. That's not realistic. I'm not sitting here like on the mountaintop, like, yeah, we need to stop working. And so, no, of course not. I'm a business owner. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is I think it is important to prioritize pockets in your day to reduce the outside noise, to reduce the static. And what you'll find, too, is if you're somebody that's really productivity motivated, you'll probably be more productive after taking a 10, 15-minute pocket of desensitizing yourself to all that stuff, right? So you can then come back in and resensitize. If you're staring at a screen all day, take 10 or 15 minutes away from it. You'll come back and you'll probably feel a little bit more energized, a little bit more able to focus. So for even of those that are like, I can't do that. I got to work all day long. I almost guarantee you'll be more efficient with your work and more productive if you find pockets to have some quiet alone time or to just take that outside static down, right? So goal for you guys this week, take stock of your normal day, look at where you can reduce the outside static and the outside noise to whatever you can, but just a reduction is good in and of itself. Doesn't need to be down to zero because I don't think that's possible. And connect the dots, see how it makes you feel, right? And if you can do it multiple times in a day, awesome. If you can have one day where you have a reset day and you just want to experiment with like, all right, today I'm going to prioritize with just meditating, reading, walking, being outside. I'm not going to be on screens at all. I'm not going to listen to anything today. See how that goes if you have the opportunity. If you don't, again, just finding pockets of reducing the outside noise. So that's my kind of topic for today is just reducing outside noise. Start to be able to work through your own thoughts, figure out what your own opinions are, calm your nervous system down, take some of those like minute stressors that add up thousands of times over a day, try to find moments to take them down, see how you feel. Hope this helps. Hope you guys enjoy that. And I hope you're able to implement that in some way this week. Hope you guys have a great week.